The night was long and heavy with silence, and the farmer named Jacob woke before the sun. He always woke early because the farm needed him and the animals waited for no man. But this morning felt different. There was a strange feeling in the air, like the earth itself was holding its breath. Jacob stepped outside his small wooden house, pulling on his old boots and hat. The grass was wet with dew, and the mist crawled across the fields like a ghost. The air was cold, and the only sound he heard was the gentle cry of the wind. He carried a lantern in his hand, its weak yellow light shaking as he walked. The cows were quiet, the chickens were quiet. Even the dog did not bark. It was as if the whole farm was waiting for something hidden. Then Jacob stopped. His ears caught something faint, something strange. It was not the wind, not the cry of an animal. It was softer, almost like a voice. He frowned and listened harder. Yes, there it was, a weak sound like a whisper mixed with a sob. It came from the direction of the old barn, the barn he rarely used anymore. His heart began to beat faster. Step by step, Jacob moved toward the sound. The mist grew thicker and the voice became clearer. It was a cry, a quiet cry, almost human, but not the same. It was broken, trembling, and filled with pain. He reached the side of the barn and lifted his lantern higher. That was when he saw it. A dirty sack lay on the ground, the cloth torn and stained with mud, and the sack was moving. Jacob froze, his breath caught in his chest. At first he thought it might be an injured animal trapped inside. But then he heard words, faint and desperate. Please, please don't send me back. His hands shook, the lantern swayed. Jacob whispered to himself, what in God's name? He bent down and touched the sack. It moved again, weak but alive. Very carefully, Jacob pulled at the rope knot. The sack opened slowly, and what he saw made his heart stop. Inside was a woman, a young woman. But she did not look like any woman. From his village, her skin glowed faintly, as if touched by moonlight, and her eyes shone like silver stars. She looked fragile, broken, like a bird with broken wings. Her face was pale, her lips trembling, her clothes torn in strange patterns that did not belong to earth. She tried to sit up but fell back, her body too weak to move. Jacob stepped back, his hands shaking. He had lived his whole life on this farm, and he had never seen anything like her. Every part of her face looked human, yet too perfect, too strange. And those glowing marks on her arms, lines of light that pulsed like living veins, were not human at all. The woman lifted her hand weakly, her voice soft like a dying flame. Please, don't send me back, she whispered again. Her words cut through Jacob's chest, filling him with fear and pity at the same time. He wanted to run, but his feet would not move. He wanted to speak, but no words came. All he could do was stare at the being lying before him. Was she human, or was she something else entirely? Jacob's mind raced. He thought of stories he heard long ago about strange lights in the sky, about men who disappeared and came back changed. He never believed them, until now. And now, here she was, on his farm, inside a sack, crying like a lost child. The farmer took a deep breath. The woman's eyes locked onto his, filled with fear and hope at the same time. Something in those silver eyes made him stay, made him bend down and whisper softly, You're safe. I won't hurt you. The woman blinked slowly, a tear sliding down her cheek. The glowing marks on her arms flickered, fading in and out like fading stars. She looked so weak, so close to death, and yet so strange, so impossible. Jacob knew this moment would change his life forever. But he also knew one thing for sure. He could not leave her there. Not in the cold, not in the dirt, not alone. The morning sun began to rise, painting the sky with orange and gold. Jacob gently lifted the sack and carried the strange woman inside his barn. Each step felt heavy, his heart filled with questions he could not answer. But deep down, he knew his world would never be the same again. And as the barn door closed behind him, the woman whispered one last time, her voice breaking. Like glass, please, don't send me back. The barn was dark and smelled of hay. The lantern light shook against the wooden walls. Jacob laid the strange woman carefully on a pile of dry straw. She was light, too light, as if her body was hollow. Her silver eyes, half closed, glowing faintly in the shadows, her lips moved but no sound came. Jacob rushed to bring a cup of water. He held it near her mouth. She sipped weakly, the drops falling down her chin. After a long silence, her voice finally came, soft and trembling. "But please, don't send me back." Jacob's heart skipped. The words were clear, in his own language, but the way she spoke was broken, slow, as if each word cost her strength. He stared at her glowing marks, the strange patterns on her skin. They pulsed like quiet fire. "Back? Where?" Jacob whispered, his voice shaking, her eyes widened with fear. "To them," she whispered. "They hurt me. They want me. Only for pain." Jacob felt his chest tighten. He had never been a man of big dreams. He was just a farmer. But now, a woman not from this earth was begging him for safety. He did not know what to say. She coughed, her whole body shivering. Jacob quickly pulled an old blanket and covered her. She held the cloth tightly, as if it was her only shield against the universe. "Who are you?" Jacob asked softly, his voice more gentle now. She looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with sadness. "I was made, not born," she said slowly. "Made for them. To test, to break, to use." Jacob shook his head in disbelief. "Made by who?" Her lips trembled. "By the ones above, the ones in the sky. They call themselves rulers, but they are only hunters." The barn fell silent. The only sound was the crackle of the lantern. Jacob tried to calm his racing thoughts. His whole life he had believed in hard soil, animals, rain, and sun, not in aliens or rulers of the sky. And yet here she was, lying in his barn, begging for life. "Why me?" Jacob asked suddenly. "Why did you end up here on my land?" She closed her eyes, tears glowing like tiny pearls against her skin. "Because I jumped," she whispered. "I escaped the cage. They tried to send me back in the sack. But I fell. I landed here." Jacob felt a shiver run through him. His lantern flickered as if the night itself listened. This woman was not just lost. She was hunted, and whoever hunted her could return at any time. The woman's hand reached out, weak but desperate. She caught Jacob's sleeve, her voice cracked with fear. "Please don't let them find me. Please don't send me back." Jacob looked into her eyes, and in that moment he saw not an alien, not a creature, but a soul crying for help. The same way his daughter had cried when she was sick years ago. The same way his wife had begged him to hold on before she passed away. His throat tightened. Memories of loss and loneliness filled him, and now here was someone asking him for the one thing he could still give. "Protection. I won't send you back," Jacob whispered, his voice steady now. "You're safe. Here, as long as I live." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were mixed with hope. She pressed her forehead against his arm, too weak to speak, but her glowing marks softened, dimmer, calmer, like a storm fading. Jacob sat down, beside her, watching her breathe. She was still trembling, still close to breaking, but she clung to life and to him. The night moved on. Hours passed, and Jacob did not sleep. He listened to every sound outside, every rustle of wind, every call of an owl, his mind full of questions, but his heart full of resolve. At one point the woman stirred again, whispering, "They will come, they always come, they can smell me, they can hear me." Jacob's jaw tightened. He looked at the barn door, the fields beyond, the sky above. "Let them come," he muttered under his breath. "This is my land, and you are under my roof. No one takes you without going through me." The woman looked at him, her silver eyes shining brighter for a moment, almost like stars. Then she closed them again, drifting into sleep, her body trembling less now. Jacob sat in silence, his hand gripping the handle of his old farming knife, his lantern burning low, his heart heavy but strong. He knew the world outside was bigger than him, but for the first time in years he felt alive. He felt needed. And in that moment, as the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, Jacob made a promise in his heart. No matter what those beings in the sky were, no matter how strong they were, he would fight, he would stand, because the plea of the woman was now his duty. Her words echoed in his ears, soft and fragile, but endless in weight. Please, don't send me back. The sun rose slowly above the farm, painting the fields with gold. Jacob sat on a wooden stool inside the barn, his tired eyes watching the strange woman as she slept. Her breathing was soft now, steady, the glowing marks on her arms fading in and out like fireflies trapped beneath her skin. He had not slept all night, but he did not care. Something told him she was more than just a visitor, more than just a lost soul. She carried a secret, one too heavy for the world outside to ever know. When she finally opened her eyes, the silver glow inside them made Jacob's chest tighten again. She looked at him, fragile but awake, and whispered, "You stayed." Jacob nodded. "I gave you my word, and a farmer's word is strong." She tried to sit up, and he helped her. Placing another blanket over her shoulders, her body was weak, but her spirit burned quietly beneath the surface. "They will search," she said slowly. "They never let go of what they think belongs to them. They see me as nothing, just a thing." Jacob clenched his fists. "No one owns you, not here, not on my land." Her eyes softened, but her fear did not fade. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they find me, they will not stop at me. They will destroy anything. Near me, they will destroy you too." Jacob stayed silent, his thoughts heavy. He had lived through storms, through sickness, through hunger, but nothing like this. He had lost his wife to fever, lost his daughter to fate, but never before had he faced an enemy from the sky. The woman lowered her head, her long hair falling across her face. "I should leave," she said faintly. "If I stay, I put you in danger." Jacob shook his head, his voice firm. "If you leave, they'll take you back, and I can't let that happen." For a moment she stared at him, her silver eyes glistening with tears. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you risk yourself for me? You don't even know who I am." Jacob looked at her, and his heart remembered the emptiness of the past years, the silence of his home after his loved ones were gone. "Because no one should cry the way you cried last night," he whispered. "No one should beg to live, not if I can stop it." Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she pressed her hand against her chest as if to hold her heart still. Hours passed, and Jacob kept her hidden in the barn. He brought food, simple, bread and milk, though she tasted them slowly, as if they were strange treasures. Every small thing amazed her. The feel of rain on her fingers when he opened the barn door, the sound of sparrows in the rafters, the warmth of the sunlight slipping through the cracks in the wood. But she never laughed, not once. Her fear remained in her eyes, her secret pressing against her like a weight. Finally, Jacob sat down beside her. "Tell me," he said, his voice low. "What did they want from you?" She looked away, her glowing marks flickering brighter. "They wanted to study pain," she said softly. "They wanted to see how much a living body could endure before breaking." Jacob's blood ran cold. He gripped the edge of the stool. "That's not living," he muttered. "That's torture." The woman nodded, her eyes empty. "To them I was not alive, I was an object. They gave me no name, no choice, just endless walls and endless chains. I escaped because I wanted to feel the sky once, even if it killed me." Jacob's throat ached, the cruelty of her words cut into him. He had known hardship, but this was beyond human cruelty. This was evil from the stars. "You're safe here," he repeated, his voice breaking. "Safe." She studied his face as if searching for any lie. But all she found was his steady eyes, and his weathered hands, hands that had planted seeds, raised life, carried love and loss. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If they know I'm here, they'll come for you too. They'll burn your fields, break your animals, and tear apart everything you built. They don't care about you, you're nothing to them." Jacob leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Maybe to them I'm nothing, but this is my land, my soil, my world, and if they want to take it, they'll have to face me. She trembled, not from fear of him, but from the weight of his words. No one had ever spoken for her before. No one had stood against the rulers of the sky. For the first time, a flicker of hope lit in her silver eyes, faint but real. Jacob reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver locket. Inside was the faded picture of his wife and daughter. He held it out to her. "They were my world once," he said, quietly. "I lost them, but maybe I was given you not to lose again, but to protect." Her hands shook as she touched the locket, her tears dripping onto the photo. "You would protect me?" she asked, almost in disbelief. Jacob nodded. "I already chose when I opened that sack." The barn grew silent again, but the silence was different, softer, less heavy. In that moment, a bond was born, fragile but unbreakable. And outside, far, above the farm, the morning sky shimmered with faint shadows, shadows that did not belong to clouds. The hunt had already begun, though neither of them knew it yet. The woman clutched the locket close to her chest, her lips trembling as she whispered, again the same words, but now with a trace of hope instead of despair. "Please, don't send me back." The days passed slowly on the farm. The woman grew stronger each sunrise. Jacob noticed her body healing faster than any human he had ever seen. The glowing marks on her arms dimmed when she was calm and shone bright. When she was afraid, like living lights beneath her skin, he never asked her name because she had none. Instead, he simply called her child or little star, and she did not protest, for those words sounded kinder than anything she had ever known. At first she moved like a shadow, silent, careful, always watching the door as if expecting hunters to burst through at any moment. But little by little, she began to discover small joys. Jacob gave her bread again, and this time she smiled faintly as she chewed, her silver eyes softening at the simple taste. She touched a cup of milk with both hands as if it were something holy. She listened to the sound of chickens outside the barn and tilted her head in wonder. One evening, Jacob led her outside. The air was cool and the sky was burning, red with sunset. She froze at first, her feet trembling on the grass. "It's safe," Jacob said, holding her hand gently. "This is only the sky. No cages here." Her eyes widened, her mouth opened in awe. She looked at the clouds shifting above, painted with fire and gold. "Free," she whispered, the word so soft it almost vanished in the wind. Jacob watched her face, and something stirred in his heart. Something he had not felt since his daughter was alive, the quiet joy of seeing someone discover the world for the first time. At night, Jacob showed her the stars. They sat outside on an old blanket. The woman gazed upward, her eyes shimmering, brighter than the sky itself. "So many," she whispered. "Back there, I only saw metal walls, never the stars." Jacob pointed at one bright star. "That one is always there," he said. "My wife used to say it was our guide. Maybe now it's yours too." The woman leaned closer, her voice soft. "I never thought the sky could belong to me." Jacob shook his head. "It doesn't belong to anyone, not to rulers in the sky, not even to me. It just exists, and you are free under it now." Her lips curved slightly, the closest thing to a smile he had ever seen from her. It was small, fragile, but it made Jacob's tired heart feel alive. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between them grew. Jacob taught her to hold a hoe, to touch the soil, to plant seeds. Her thin hands trembled at first, but soon she pressed the earth gently, covering the seeds as if she were tucking children into bed. "Life grows here," Jacob told her. "If you care for it, it gives back." Her eyes filled with wonder as she watched a green sprout break through the soil after a few days. She touched it carefully, as if afraid it might vanish. "Alive," she whispered. "It wants to live like me." Jacob nodded. "Exactly like you." She followed him everywhere, listening to his stories, learning his world. She laughed once when the farm dog barked and licked her hand. The sound of her laughter was soft, shaky, like someone learning how to be human again, but it made Jacob's eyes sting with tears. In return, she began to share pieces of herself, not all, but enough. She told him of the cages made of light, of the cold hands that bound her, of the experiments that broke her body but not her spirit. "They do not understand kindness," she said quietly one night. "When I saw your face, I thought you might be another jailer, but you stayed." Jacob looked at her silver eyes glowing in the lantern light. "I stayed because I couldn't walk away," he said simply. The woman held her arms tightly around herself. "I am not like you. I am not even meant to exist. They made me. They own me. And yet you speak to me as if I am real." Jacob's voice grew firm. "You are real, more real than they will ever be, because you can feel, you can hope, and you can choose. That makes you alive." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not tears of fear. They were tears of something new, something fragile but powerful. That night she whispered softly before sleep, "I wish I could stay here forever." Jacob's chest ached. He wanted to promise her forever, but he knew the sky above was not silent. Sometimes he saw strange lights flicker at the edge of the horizon. Sometimes he heard sounds in the night that were not from Earth, but he said nothing. He let her rest in hope, because hope was the one thing she had never been given. By the 4th week, she had become part of his days. The farm no longer felt empty. The air no longer felt heavy. He found himself talking again, smiling again, his loneliness lifting like fog under the morning sun. One evening as they walked back from the fields, she looked at him and said, "If they come, you should not fight. You should give me back. Your life is worth more than mine." Jacob stopped, his hands gripping the handle of his lantern tightly. He turned to her, his voice steady. "Child, listen to me. I already lost everything once. I won't lose again. If they come, they'll face me first." She trembled, silver tears shining in her eyes. She wanted to argue, but his gaze was unshakable. Their bond was no longer just of protector and stranger. It had become something deeper, a silent promise, a family born not of blood, but of choice. And though the nights were peaceful for now, far beyond the clouds, the hunters searched. The stars hid their shadows, waiting, moving closer with each passing day. But inside the farm, in the small house of an old farmer, a broken alien woman learned what it meant to live and to belong. The peace on the farm did not last. For many nights Jacob noticed the woman staring at the sky, her silver eyes glowing brighter whenever. Strange lights flickered above the horizon. She said nothing at first, but Jacob could see the fear in her trembling hands. One night, as the crickets sang and the wind brushed through the cornfields, the woman suddenly gripped Jacob's arm, her voice sharp. "They are close." Jacob lifted his head, his tired eyes scanning the sky. At first he saw nothing but stars. Then, slowly he noticed it. 3 lights moving together. Too steady to be stars, too silent to be airplanes. They glowed like cold fire above the earth. Jacob's chest tightened, his grip on the lantern shaking. The woman's glowing marks flared. With panic, "They are searching," she whispered. "They never stop. They smell my trail. They hear my breath." The farmer clenched his jaw, his mind racing. He thought of his fields, his animals, his quiet life. But most of all, he thought of her voice begging him that first night. "Please don't send me back." "They won't take you," Jacob said, his voice low but fierce. "Not while I'm here." That same night, shadows crossed the fields. Jacob saw them from the window, tall figures moving silently among the corn. Their bodies seemed stretched, their limbs long, their eyes glowing faint blue. The woman hid behind him, her body trembling. "They found me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They will tear apart everything, even you." Jacob reached for his old rifle, the one he had not used in years, his hand steady despite the storm inside his chest. "I've faced wolves, storms, and fire," he muttered. "Now I'll face them." The barn creaked as the wind pushed against it, but it was not just the wind. Footsteps moved outside, heavy, but silent. The dog barked furiously and then whimpered, silenced by something unseen. The woman clutched Jacob's sleeve. "You can't fight them. They are not like you. They do not bleed the same. Jacob turned to her, his voice hard. Maybe, but this is my land. No one takes what's under my roof, not even the sky. Suddenly, a beam of cold blue light swept across the barn, cutting through the cracks in the wood. The woman gasped, her glowing marks flaring brighter. They are calling me. They are pulling me, she cried, her body shaking as if invisible chains tugged at her. Jacob pulled her close, blocking her from the light. Stay with me, he said firmly. Look at me, not at them. Her eyes locked onto his, silver against brown. For a moment the pull weakened. The light faded. The barn sank back into darkness, but the silence was more terrifying than the light itself. Jacob quickly led her into the cellar beneath the barn, an old storage space where he once kept potatoes and tools. He lowered her inside, his lantern dim, his hands rough but gentle. Stay here. Don't move no matter what happens. She grabbed his hand desperately. They will kill you. Jacob squeezed her fingers, his weathered face calm. Better me than you, he whispered. You still have life left. I already lived mine. Her tears fell fast, glowing silver as they touched his skin. Why do you care so much? She asked, her voice breaking. Jacob paused, then leaned closer. Because I already lost a daughter once, I won't lose again. Not even if she came from the stars. Before she could speak, he shut the cellar door, pushing heavy crates over, it hiding her in the dark. The barn door shook violently. A sharp sound like metal scraping against wood filled the air. Jacob raised his rifle, his heartbeat steady. The first shadow entered, tall, thin, its face pale with no mouth. Only glowing blue eyes that pierced the dark. Jacob aimed and fired. The gunshot echoed through the farm. The creature staggered but did not fall. It hissed without sound. A vibration that rattled Jacob's bones. More shadows slipped inside, their long arms reaching. The air grew heavy, thick with something not human. Jacob stood firm, firing again, shouting curses into the night. Come on, then, he growled. Come and take me if you dare. The woman below heard every sound, every shot, every thud of feet above. She pressed her hands against her ears but still heard Jacob's voice. Fierce, unbroken, like a shield around her. But the hunters were many. Jacob was only one. His rifle clicked empty. He grabbed his farming knife, his breath heavy, sweat dripping down his face. Still he stood tall. The tallest hunter leaned close, its glowing eyes scanning him. Then a strange voice echoed, not from its mouth, but from the air itself. Where is she? Jacob spat on the ground, gripping his knife. Not here. Not for you. The hunters hissed in anger. The barn shook as beams of blue light burned through the wood, searching, breaking, tearing. But Jacob did not move. He slashed at them, cut. Their limbs pushed them back. A single man against shadows from the sky. Down in the cellar, the woman curled in the dark, her glowing marks burning like fire. She wanted to run. She wanted to fight. But Jacob's voice echoed in her memory. Stay here, don't move. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered to herself again and again. Please don't send me back, please. Don't let them take me. Above her, the battle raged, and the farm that once stood in silence became a place of fire, screams without sound, and a farmer's defiance. The barn shook like a storm had entered it. Shadows pressed closer, their blue eyes burning through the dark. Jacob stood with only a knife in his hand, but his spirit was stronger than steel. He slashed and pushed, but for every creature he drove back, 2 more came forward. His arms trembled, his breath heavy, yet he did not move from the cellar door. His body was the last wall between the hunters and the woman he had promised to protect. One of the tall beings stepped closer, its long hand reaching toward him. Jacob swung his knife and cut deep, but no blood came. Only sparks of light scattered like broken stars. The creature hissed in rage, the sound shaking the wooden beams. Above, from below, the woman pressed against the cellar door, hearing every crash, every cry. Her silver eyes filled with tears, her glowing marks flaring brighter. Please, Jacob, stop, they'll kill you, she whispered, her voice lost in the chaos. Jacob heard her faintly, and he smiled through the sweat and the blood on his face. As long as I stand, you are safe, child, he muttered. The hunters moved together now, circling him. Beams of blue light cutting through the walls, fire spreading across the straw. the barn filling with smoke. Jacob coughed but did not fall, his body bruised, his strength fading, yet his eyes steady. Then, a voice echoed again, not from their mouths but from the air, deep and cold. "You are nothing, farmer, give her back, she does not belong to you." Jacob lifted his head, gripping his knife tighter. "She belongs to no one. Not to you. Not to the sky, not to chains, she's free here," he shouted, his voice breaking but fierce. The creatures hissed louder, pressing closer. One struck his arm, sending him crashing against the wall. Pain exploded through him. His knife fell, but still he crawled back to the cellar door, spreading his arms across it, his body the last shield. The woman below sobbed, her hands glowing like fire, her voice trembling. "Jacob, please, I can't let you die for me." He pressed his back against the door, his voice weak but strong in spirit. "I already died once the day I lost my family, but you gave me a reason to live again. And if I must fall now, then I'll fall protecting that reason." His words pierced her heart. The glowing marks on her body surged brighter, filling the cellar with silver light. Her breath grew heavy, her hands shaking deep inside her. A power long buried awakened. The hunters raised their hands, blue beams burning toward Jacob. He shut his eyes, ready to take the final blow, but before the light struck, the cellar door burst open with a flash of silver. The woman rose from below, her body shining like a star, her eyes blazing brighter than the moon. "Enough." Her voice rang out, not soft anymore but strong, echoing like thunder. The hunters froze, their long limbs twitching, their blue eyes flickering. Jacob turned, his mouth open in shock. The fragile woman he carried in a sack was gone. In her place stood a being of power, her glowing marks alive like rivers of light across her skin, her silver tears burning into fire. She spread her arms and the barn filled with a storm of silver energy. The hunters hissed, stumbling back as, if pushed by invisible winds, their blue beams shattered, their tall bodies bending under her force. Jacob shielded his eyes, the light too bright. The heat rushing across his face, the woman's voice broke with pain but also strength. "You took my freedom. You broke my body, but here I found life. I found kindness, and I will not go back." The hunters screamed in silence, their shadows twisting. Then one by one they faded, ripped apart by the storm of silver light. Until only ashes of blue sparks floated in the air. The barn burned, its roof falling. But the woman stood in the middle, her glow holding the fire back from Jacob, her body trembling with the weight of her power. Jacob staggered to his feet. Reaching out, "Child, stop, you'll destroy yourself." She turned to him, tears glowing down her cheeks. "If I don't, they will never stop. They will come again and again, and you will die because of me. I must end it here." Jacob shook his head, stumbling closer. "No, don't say that. You are not alone anymore. You don't need to fight alone." Her light flickered, her body shaking as if it might break apart. "I was made to suffer," she whispered. "But you gave me something else, a home, a name in your heart. I can't let them take it away." Jacob grabbed her hand, ignoring the burning heat. "Then let me stand with you. Let me fight with you, because a home is not one person, it's two, it's us." For a moment her silver eyes widened, filled with both pain and hope. Her power wavered, and in that fragile instant, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. "Then if I fall," she whispered, "I fall as yours." The storm of light erupted one final time. Brighter than fire, brighter than the sun, the hunters screamed and vanished into the night. The barn collapsed, flames swallowing the walls, but in the middle of the fire stood the farmer and the alien woman, holding on to each other. The fire raged around them, the barn collapsing piece by piece, sparks and smoke filled the night. Jacob held the woman's hand as her glow dimmed, her body trembling from the storm of power she had released. Her silver eyes looked at him, soft but heavy with sadness. "I used too much," she whispered, her voice faint like a dying flame. Jacob shook his head, pulling her close. "No, don't talk like that. You're alive. You're here. And that's all that matters." But he could see it in her face. Her light flickered, fading with each breath. The glowing marks on her arms pulsed slower and slower. Outside, the hunters were gone, The sky was empty again, the farm quiet except for the crackle of fire, the silence after war. Jacob dragged her out of the barn just as the roof fell behind them. They collapsed together on the damp grass, the cold night air rushing against their skin. She lay in his arms, her head against his chest, her tears glowing faintly. "They won't come back tonight," she whispered. "But they will return. They always return." Jacob looked at the burning barn, the smoke curling into the sky, his face covered in ash and blood. "Then let them come," he said firmly. "As long as I breathe, they'll never take you." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were not of fear. They were of love, of belonging, something she had never known before. "You gave me what I never had," she said softly. "A choice, a home, a family, even if for a short time." Jacob's throat tightened. He shook his head quickly. "No, not a short time. For as long as you live, you belong here, with me, her." Lips curved into the faintest smile. Her glowing hand reached up to touch his weathered cheek. "You called me child. You called me little star. And I believed you. I believed I was more than a thing. I believed I was alive." Jacob's tears finally fell, hot and heavy. "You are alive," he whispered. "You are mine to protect, not theirs to break." The night stretched on. The fire burned lower, leaving only smoke and ruin where the barn once stood. But in Jacob's arms the woman rested, her breathing shallow but steady. Dawn came, painting the sky with soft light. Birds sang as if nothing had happened. The earth moved on, but for Jacob, everything had changed. The woman stirred, her silver eyes opening to the sunrise. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Is this what freedom feels like?" Jacob nodded, holding her hand tightly. "Yes, this is freedom. No chains, no cages, just sky." Her tears glistened. She whispered again, "Please don't send me back." Jacob bent his head low, his voice steady. "I will never send you back. Not to them. Not to anyone. You belong here now. With me." The woman sighed softly, her body relaxing in his arms. For the first time, she looked at peace. Days passed and Jacob rebuilt. The barn was gone, but he built a small shelter from the wood that survived. The farm still stood. The animals returned to calm. Life moved forward. The woman grew weaker at times, her body fragile, from the power she used. But Jacob never left her side. He fed her, carried her when she could not walk, sat with her under the stars she loved so much. One evening, as they watched the night sky together, she whispered, "Do you think I can stay? Do you think the world will ever let me belong?" Jacob looked at her, his weathered hand covering hers. "You already belong. You belong because I say so. Because this is my home, and I chose you as part of it." Her silver eyes filled with light again, brighter than they had been since the night she arrived. "Then I am yours," she whispered. "Not theirs, not a thing, but yours." Jacob pulled her close, his voice breaking. "And I am yours too, little star." The wind moved, gently across the fields, carrying away the ashes of the past. The farm was no longer silent. It was alive again, not just with animals and crops, but with hope. The hunters might return. The rulers of the sky might search. But Jacob no longer feared them. He had found something stronger than fear. He had found family again. And as the stars shone above, the woman leaned her head against his shoulder, whispering one last time, not in fear, but in peace, "Please, don't send me back." And Jacob answered, his voice steady as the earth itself, "Never."